How has your journey been?
So we had an entrance, we did that, I cracked it. But then I decided to get into Gynac. Everyone knows about Dr. Gautam, so I was working with him, I got an opportunity and I got interested in IVF.
Today, if a girl, is thinking of taking surgery, what would you tell her?
And I think whatever you're passionate about, you should do it. And there are so many female surgeons now,
Correct.
and there are so many people who are doing orthopedics.
Was there a moment where you thought you don't want to do this anymore?
So the only thing which scared me was deaths.
What made you kind of leave that cushion job which is paying well?
If I'm doing so much of work for someone else, I thought that why not just invest that much of an effort for myself.
Has there been a time when, a patient has crossed the line?
So for us, the commonest thing is they want to donate their sperm because they think that they have all become liquid donors.
You'll have to do an IVF, so you'll have to have bed rest, you can't move around, you will have all these hormonal changes in your body. Face any of these issues?
I was absolutely fine. I was working till the last minute, post the procedure also.
Which is one weird thing that someone has left in your examination or in your consultation room.
So one of my patients had written a love letter and
वैसे ही छोड़ के चला
वैसे
गया.
ही छोड़ के चला गया.
The most funny question a patient has asked you about their reproductive health.
किस पोजीशन में सेक्स करने से मेरे चांसेस सबसे ज्यादा बढ़ जाएंगे?
Decision in your life that you are like the most proud of.
One is to start a visa. I'm super proud about it. And secondly, not to be pressurized just to be with someone.
Hello everyone. Welcome again to another episode of Second Opinion with Dr. UV's Stories Beyond Stethoscope. As you know, this is a podcast where we delve into the lives of medical fraternity, people in and around medical fraternity, talking about their day-to-day life, their struggles, their wins, and a lot more. Today, we have another very interesting guest. She's been my close friend for a lot of years now, and I know her story. The whole angle here is a single girl navigating the medical field to reach to an height in her professional and personal career. And that's what we're going to talk about today. The difficulties that they are facing, the challenges, and how you overcome them, the advantages, the disadvantages, etc. So my guest tonight is Dr. Sheetal Savankar. She's a senior reproductive endocrinologist and IVF specialist. She's practicing out of Mumbai. She used to head a corporate firm for quite a few years and then at certain stage of her life decided to start her own venture known as Avisa IVF. Today, we are going to delve into her story from the beginning of her career to a stage that she's reached today. Welcome, Sheetal.
Hi, Dr. UV. Thank you so much for inviting me here. And definitely I'm excited because more than anything else, this is an absolutely spontaneous podcast. Though I know you're going to talk about my story, it is very, very spontaneous. I really don't know what you're really going to ask me. So that is the reason I'm super nervous.
But we are just going to think that, we've had such conversation for hours at
Yes.
restaurants, at coffees, even on telephone. So this is just one of them, but just being recorded.
Yes. Yes.
And I want you to forget that it's being recorded.
I know, I'll try my best.
So Sheetal, I think the first question, or I want to start by, you've been in the field for what now? 20 years or 20 years?
Yeah, so IVF I'm practicing for the last 12 years.
Yeah. And before that, your studies, this, that, everything.
Yes.
My first question, and that's the reason when I thought of, the topic of a single girl or a single woman today, navigating this. It might sound sexist, but we know the difficulties that you face, and especially in medical field. And that's when I thought that, you are like the perfect example to talk to anyone about the challenges that you've faced, how you fought a lot of patriarchy, lot of, notions that people have in their head. So in this span, how has your journey been? Starting from a girl who started her MBBS, working under someone, then becoming a clinical director of a national corporate brand, and then again going back to square one and starting something from the beginning. Take us through that journey.
Yeah, so frankly, Yuvraj, I think you know that my parents are not doctors. So it wasn't easy to take a decision to become a doctor. But I was actually very passionate. So I decided to get into medicine. I finished my... So we had an entrance, we did that, I cracked it and I got into MBBS. I finished it. Post that, I didn't know which branch. and I was confused because there was no one to fall
Guide
back
you,
on.
correct.
Yeah, so because there was no one in the field or the fraternity whom I knew that time. But then I decided to get into Gynac. And after that also I didn't know which branch. I was actually confused between fetal medicine because I knew that being an obstetrician might not help me, or I don't know what I'm going to do. So I was thinking, and at that point of time I got an opportunity to be into IVF. I was working with someone, and I think everyone knows about Dr. Gautam. So I was working with him, I got an opportunity and I got interested in IVF.
Correct.
And I think that was the changing point or decision which I made to get into IVF. And yes, I think from there my journey changed. And from there was no looking back, frankly. But then yes, being single, it was very difficult because every time, whatever decisions I had to take, there was no one to help me as much. Definitely there was family, there were friends, but they also knew that much only.
Correct.
So yes, I went ahead with IVF. I was with Dr. Gautam for almost 5 years. Then I was the clinical director of an Indo-German chain for almost 4.5 years. But then eventually I realized that how long am I going to work for a corporate, because they have their own limitations. And that's when I decided to start my own, back to the scratch, because I was in a comfortable position where I was earning decent amount of money, but then still there was not enough amount of satisfaction.
Correct.
And then I decided to start my own baby called Avisa. And then I realized it was super difficult because how to go about it, I frankly didn't know about it. Like, right from thinking which place, how to go about it, everything in that
Correct.
place is being decided by me.
Correct.
Like, it's not just whether you know your clinical stuff, you also have to learn about administration, you also have to know about how the clinic has to look. Everything has to be decided on your own.
You've kind of told me 3 different eras of your life. Of course, first is when you said that, you decided to get into medicine, and then of course the decision to take Gyna. That's one. And then the second is the whole working under someone, then kind of shifting your job, becoming the head of something, and then post that also, again somewhere that dissatisfaction or whatever, to shift to something that is your own and starting from scratch. I want to take each era personally one by one. So my first, you pointed something very, very important, which I think a lot of people will relate it, and I relate to also. That, like 15 years back, 20 years back, when we were deciding to get into medicine, I know there were not a lot of options. I mean, there were always options, but it was a mindset between, especially in our households, so-called middle class households, where either you become an engineer or you become a doctor. And then when you decide to become a doctor, you have no clue what is going to happen, what is the journey going to be. And then again, coming into the whole idea of getting into Gynac, which branch to take, what is working, what is not working. So tell me, how difficult was it? I know our parents have always been supportive, but there is a limitation to it.
Absolutely.
Because they don't know, they know as much as we do actually, apart from the support that you can give. So, for people who are, we have a lot of students who are right now, and right now, हमारे वक्त तो फिर भी, there was this limitation of subjects also. Now there is the super specialty has just gone crazy. So everyone is confused. How do you decide? How did you take that decision? Sometimes it's just fate, we know. But how difficult was it to come from a family that is not doctors?
Yuvraj, what I feel is that you have to have some passion. As in, when I was doing my MBBS, you touch each branch.
Correct.
And you have to decide. So when I was doing my MBBS, I was doing my internship. And that's when I decided that maybe I like ophthalmology, I like surgery, and I like gynecology. So these were the 3 branches which I kind of liked. And based on that, I took a decision what I should do. So some passion is required, because this is going to be your branch throughout your life. And unless you're passionate about it, whether you do it from a government college or you do it from a private college, frankly, it doesn't matter in the long run. Your passion is something which is going to keep it constant throughout.
Was there a moment, do you remember that day or that time when you said that, okay, ophthalmology, surgery or Gynac, may say, now I feel no, Gynac is it?
Yeah, so I remember where I had to take a decision. So I spoke to my father. He's like, don't you think? So I told him that I am thinking about surgery. But As I told you, my
Yeah.
parents were not doctors,
Yeah.
and everybody was like, so my dad is like, no, I think as a girl, so still,
Correct.
even if
That stigma was still
yes,
there.
was there, and he's like, I think that will work the best for you.
Correct, correct.
And we are so naive, as in we are so young, we are so naive. And then I was like, okay, and though it's worked the best
Correct,
for me,
fair enough.
I think there are so many pressures as
Yeah.
women, and I don't know, as men also, that
Yeah.
we kind of also
Yeah.
get into.
No, that's because it's gynecology. I can relate, where my parents were like, you are a guy and why are you taking a
Absolutely.
gynecology? And your parents were like, you're a girl and you can't take general surgery.
Yes,
But today things have changed. We know.
absolutely.
I don't think it is 100% changed, but to an extent. So today, if a girl, is thinking of taking surgery, what would you tell her?
I think she should go ahead. I would. There are so many female surgeons now,
Correct.
and there are so many people who are doing orthopedics and neurosurgery. And I think whatever you're passionate about, you should do it.
Correct. So now you've decided, you went into Gynac. Tell us a little bit about your residentship. How was it? Because that's most interesting. Most of the time, it's interesting in most people.
For me, it was very interesting. So I was not the usual resident, I guess. I was a little. So at that point of time, it was a little difficult. We were so pampered, like throughout, even from middle class family. I think we were not used to residency, staying away for 48 hours. So that was something very different from our usual MBBS days. But then I think eventually you get used to it. Like you get night calls, you've done OBGY, so it was an entirely different experience. And delivering babies, staying away for 48 hours, staying in a hostel, because I did my MBBS from Mumbai. So staying in a hostel was an entirely different experience. So all those things build up your personality. So that kind of shaped me into a person that I am right now. It definitely builds up your confidence also. So I think everything that you do in your life helps you grow.
Was there a moment where you thought you don't want to do this anymore?
So the only thing which scared me was deaths. Because it's a very dynamic subject. So we used to have some mat moths, some neonates or babies dying. So that was something which was a little scary. But other than that, as I told you, I was always very passionate. I loved the field. I loved the adrenaline rush. I always loved it. Yes.
And then when we come at this stage again, when people like you and me who don't have hospitals ready for them to just go and sit, with all due respect to who have them, we don't. Again, you pass out and there comes a time when you are like, what next? Do I do a job? Do I take a government job? Do I take a private job? Do I do these trainings? And at that point, doing training one was very costly, especially in these so-called glamorous branches of IVF and super specialities and all that. There were no valid trainings. If they were costly. You had to go to a different country. That's another money. So how did you kind of, after passing, stumble upon what you want to do next and then get into your job?
So Yuvraj, post my PG, I didn't know what to do. As in, I was working as a clinical associate in some government hospitals. I was doing my registrarship. I did that for a couple of posts. After that, I definitely knew that I am not going to do obstetrics like plain OBGYN, nothing against them.
Yeah.
Obviously, we need that. Because I wanted to do something different. So I was thinking, as I told you in the beginning, that maybe fetal medicine or maybe IVF. But as I told you, I didn't know whom to approach. Because no one in my family is related to medicine. So I did speak to friends who are doctors, parents who are doctors of friends, and that's when I also actually went for a course, for an interview for fetal medicine, got through it. But in the meantime, I was working with Dr. Gautam, and that's when it actually changed me. The whole thing changed for me, and I decided. I also spoke to Dr. Gautam, and he said that this line might work the best for you. And also about fetal medicine, that maybe in India it might take a longer time for it to build up. So that's when I decided that yes, I also love this brand, so why not just continue with it?
I will touch the subject of us in jobs.
Yeah.
You've been in a job.
Yes.
I've been in a job. And I know maybe people who had given us jobs will not like to hear this. But there is a harsh reality to jobs. I think to all jobs, but also I think in medical fraternity per se, where it's very difficult at a point. We might be one, there's the whole pay issue where sometimes you're not satisfied, you work much more than what you think you deserve. Second is, first of all, are you really being given enough work, or are you being just treated as, just a subordinate or an intern to do paperwork? And because there are a lot of young doctors who at the end of the day work for years and don't get enough practice. They're not taught as much as they're supposed to teach. How was, and with of course all due respect to your employer, how was your experience, and why did you at one point decide to move forward from a particular job?
Okay, so Dr. UV, as you know, that I've kind of worked at multiple places, so experiences were a little different. So initially, where I worked, I did learn a lot. As in, though, as how you mentioned, maybe if you compare anybody who has a background or someone whose parents are doctors, it's an entirely different process because they directly get it.
Correct.
For us, it's like you have to observe things, you have to go through that entire process, you have to do a lot of paperwork. And I remember I had
Grunt work.
yes, and I remember we had to maintain a logbook and stuff like that. So if you want to do a pickup, you have to do this. But trust me, in the long run, when I'm having my own center, it's all worth it.
Correct.
As in, it's very easy to say that I got it simple, I got it quick, but then it's all worth it. When I made that effort, I got up at 6 o'clock, I used to go for scan training. And doing all those things, it's only helped me in the long run.
Because I'm asking because that's what I wanted to discuss about, and that's, you said it completely correct, that today we feel it's worth it.
Yeah.
But at that time, sometimes it's very depressive.
It is very depressing.
It really breaks your heart. Sometimes it breaks your morale and confidence
Yes.
of moving forward. Because I remember there were times initially, not later on, but initially in my jobs where I felt that, what am I doing? No one is teaching me. It feels as if the whole world is against you. No one is letting you come forward, and you're trying to fight all these barriers and all these difficulties. But you have to stick it out. You have to pay your due to move forward, and that's why I think that job probably scaled you to a level where then next you could become a national clinical director, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
So my next question is, when you leave the job, what made you kind of leave that cushion job which is paying well and which you've been working for a long time?
Yuvraj, what I felt is that I was really I was very happy. I thought I'm never going to leave that corporate job. I was so comfortable. I thought that this is my permanent thing. I was so happy. I was traveling all across India, training people, teaching them how to do IVF, doing almost 100 cycles a month. I was super happy because I was getting that job satisfaction. But what I realized is that if I'm doing so much of work for someone else, which is not just clinical, but even I was also into the
stuff.
Administrative work. I thought that why not just invest that much of an effort for myself? Again, everybody thinks different, but that is what I thought at that point of time. And obviously, there were some incidents which happened, and that's when I decided. And that day, okay, so something went wrong, and I was just asked to leave. I have not, I know this is a podcast which is going to go live, but I was just asked to leave for no mistake of mine. And that's the day when I spoke to my father and I was like, this is
can't
it.
happen. Correct.
This is something that I've put my heart and soul in this job. We were doing so well at that point of time. And I was just asked to leave.
I'm going to interrupt you because we know that we're not naming any chains, but we know that the chain that you were working with was almost supposed to be, it came in a big name in our country, and then there was a time when it was just shutting down. You are not saying it, I'm saying it, and we know that this was not going to work. And then suddenly, I feel that after you joined, it kind of started gaining momentum again. It started doing well. So we know that how much, I can only imagine how much you must have worked hard to get it from where it was to where it reached at a particular amount of time. And then you're saying that the management might have not been fair to you.
Not all of them, as in maybe some people, but then as I told you, no offense, I just can't tell you this, that something went wrong. And I can just tell you, I was super genuine in my job, and you know me
Correct.
so well for a long time now, and that's so for me that was a decision making point that no, that's
This is
it,
enough.
and that's the day that I took a call that I'm going to start my own center, big, small, whatever I can manage, but that's the day that I decided.
And then how did you move forward?
That
Because
was a very difficult journey, Yuvraj. That was super difficult.
yeah.
So I just started hunting for a place. You've gone through the same journey, as in within a month, I was every day searching for a place, looking for places. And then I decided I have to see for a place close to my house because I didn't want to travel too much. And yes, I kind of, there obviously I had some support because dad was helping me look the place. But then after that, he could help me finalize the
certain amount.
deal. Yeah, yes. And after that, everything right from framing the place, planning the rooms, to designing the place, it was everything that we had to, like, I had to take a call how to go about
Yeah.
it.
No, I remember because when I also started off similarly, and I think it was the same time probably, and we were
Yes.
together, and I get a call suddenly that, सर ये रूम में इतने एम्पियर के प्लग लगाने हैं और कितने 8 एम्पियर के और 16 एम्पियर के लगाने हैं, and I had no idea what 16 एम्पियर and 8 एम्पियर plugs were.
Yuvraj, precisely, as in which laminate to select,
Correct.
I was clueless. Like, कितने MB का, like, generators, nothing.
Correct,
I was
correct.
absolutely clueless
Yeah.
about stuff.
And you get the plan, and they say कि अच्छा OT 12/10 का तो चल जाएगा, and you have no idea how much 12/10 is.
Absolutely. And I remember because dad was having some health issues, I was in the middle of the place, an entirely empty space, and there were 15 men standing around. Though I agree, I don't get intimidated, but then 15 men standing around me and asking me questions, Madam, iska kya karna hai? Madam, iska kya karna hai? And I'm like, okay, I have to answer all of them. As in, that was a point, then I was like, yes, I have to evolve and I have to take all the decisions on my own.
Was there a time when you felt ये क्यों किया? I though felt every day, but that is a different thing.
Yes, when I had to pay the money.
Tell us, how does financing an hospital work? Because I know you have not taken a check from your parents.
Yeah.
And most of the time when we start a private practice, for me also, I think the biggest pain point was, and the biggest so-called stress in your life at that point, is where to get the money from and the budgeting of it. I know it's easy for people to say कि ये loan ले लो, but it's not easy for us to even have loans today, because if you don't have assets. So how did you come across, where did you make these decisions? And starting a private center, owning a certain square feet of space in Mumbai is a huge thing. Did you save that much money for these many years that you had worked? If you are okay with it, let's talk a little bit more about that.
So yes, I was working for almost 10 years before that. So I had some savings. I had not taken money from my parents. I definitely had them, like dad was always there as a backup, but then I definitely wanted to do something on my own. So I decided to work on the loans. I didn't even know what the budget is going to be. So getting quotations, working on the bills. Obviously, there were friends, as I told you, who helped me in like calculating and stuff like that. And I think at the same time, you were also working on your project. So we kind of worked on that. And based on that, I kind of decided to start taking loans. So it was a very tough call to make.
Yeah.
But then because I had some savings, I could manage to work on it.
So then now coming to the crux of what we started off with, tell me, do you think it's more difficult as a single female to undergo all these stuff alone? Are there more challenges that you feel people, because I've heard my friends say that construction wale, if the father says, they listen. If you say that change this, they don't listen, because they feel that ये लड़की है, इसको क्या पता चलेगा bricks में, इसको क्या पता चलेगा electricians के बारे में, generators के बारे में. Did you feel all that?
So many times, as in multiple times. Initially they did not value my word, but eventually they didn't have a choice, because
you were writing the check.
Yeah, I was giving them the check. Plus, as I told you, parents not being doctors, dad was not well. every decision had to be taken by me. So eventually,
Can you give us some example that if you can remember, कैसे कभी हुआ हो कि आपको ऐसे you had to be like very emphatic and say this is what has to be done and they were not listening to you or something like that?
so many things. Like I remember how many washrooms, like a small thing. So there also it's like नहीं दो होने चाहिए या तीन होने चाहिए. So dad saying something else. And then finally, नहीं ऐसे ही होना चाहिए. So like small things like these.
Yeah.
Because obviously everybody's thought process is very different. So it's just one of the examples. There have been multiple. Like again, so I remember buying the marble. Like I don't know how significant it is, but buying the Italian marble, I wanted to go to some place called Silvassa because you get it cheaper. But then that is like, no, you can't go there because you can't travel there. But for me, those 50,000 bucks were also like 50,000 was also saving of money. But then he's like, so many things. Like
Correct.
Being a woman, every time I was stopped.
Yeah.
But then somewhere I feel that we have to break that barrier. You have to take a call. You have to do it.
Correct. Then what do you say to yourself? You know, any girl who's starting a career and who's doing so well. I know this. I don't want to say it, but we've all seen this. You know, sometimes, or be it in any field. You know, be it glamour field or be it any field, you always hear that, oh, she must be sleeping around with someone. If koi actor actresses अच्छा करने लगता है, which are again non-nepotic kids, you feel that she must be sleeping, she's flirting with someone. In medicine also, you're like she's getting very close to the senior doctors को इसको procedures ज़्यादा मिल रहे हैं. And in your case, to another level, कि center ही gift कर दिया. How do you deal with it? You know, do you think that's because you're so good that people are kind of intimidated by your success, or they're just plain jealous?
What I feel is that Yuvraj, it does hurt you, but what I would tell everyone is that you will definitely get affected, but then you have to be resilient. You have to move on. You have to take it in your stride and somehow accept it and then go ahead. That is something that I strongly feel, that you have to be resilient. You have to accept it and just feel. You are going to feel bad. As in, aaj bhi, if someone says something to you, how much ever strong you are, it's impossible you're not going to get affected. Okay. But how you take it in your stride and how you kind of make it as your strength is something that matters the most.
And were these so-called rumors and this allegations being thrown by male doctors more, or was it both?
It was surprisingly both, Yuvraj. As in, if you think about it, you will like, अगर सोचने जाओ तो आप ये सोचोगे कि females ज़्यादा बोलेंगे, right? But it was not like that. Yeah. A lot of men have also spoken so many things about me, as in, who knows it better than you, right?
Yeah. And so now you've started your center. Yeah. Hannah, it's always a tough journey. Touch wood, things are going well. How do you think starting a new center is, you know, in terms of how do you navigate that? How do you get your patients? And why I'm asking is how, how patient you need to be to wait it out. Because, you know, as you said, you were doing like 100 surgeries a month. And then suddenly you are back to probably 10 surgeries a month. And then slowly it develops. And then again, that period is stressful. You're paying your EMIs and you're paying whatever, your ancillary cost, your running cost. How has it been?
Frankly, very tough. I didn't know, as in there were times where the whole day I used to just, initial part, I was just sitting. There was no work. I agree, there was administrative work, planning, how to go about it. I didn't know how, like, I agree because I was, as I told you, everything that you do in your past helps you. So even the corporates that I've worked with, because I had done the administrative part, some part of marketing, it did help me. But then still, when you start your own, you have to kind of figure out how to go about with the marketing stuff. I didn't know, Yuvraj. And there were days, as I told you, I used to just sit. Yeah. There were no patients at all. But then somewhere, because there were patients, word of mouth, I think, is the strongest publicity. So if you are doing good work, if you are genuine with your work,
so many years.
Yes, because that was, so you can't cheat with your work. You can't cheat with your patients. It's something, that's a message that I strongly want to give, and I strongly believe in that. If you're genuine in your work, you will definitely, maybe not now, but eventually get patients.
Technically, just for the listeners and young doctors, you know, what do you think are right moves and strategies to start a practice and gain patients? Like, what were you initially doing? I mean, of course, for you, you had worked for 10 years, so you had your own group of patients who were slowly going to come to know that this is your hospital and they're going to refer patients. But what more? What were your things? What did you think worked best for you?
So as I said, like word of mouth was one thing. The second thing is now social media is taken such a big, like 10 years back, it was just the name of the doctor which mattered the most and how good you are at work. But now this is a new fad which has come. That is the social media.
We're going to talk about that.
Yes, I know. But then that has changed a lot of practice. So how you portray yourself definitely matters a lot is what I've realized. But then yes, how you go about it. Then there are multiple ways of campaigning. Like you can conduct CMEs. So many
Meet
things.
doctors.
Meet doctors. Do camps.
It was so difficult for me. I'm not saying that it is right or wrong. I think kudos to people who do it because it takes a lot of courage. But for me, it was so difficult because I had come from a place which was one of the best centers in the country, and then trying to go to every individual doctor who are seniors, who are juniors, who are your contemporaries. You know that they don't practice IVF, but still it felt like you're going and begging them for work.
Absolutely. And for me, Yuvraj, I know as in Mumbai, there are sections, right? So I was always practicing in the western suburbs and then shifting my practice to central suburbs, where though people know about you, but then definitely for them, I am also a new doctor.
Correct.
So trusting me in IVF was something very different or difficult for them.
Yeah.
So kind of getting their trust, setting my practice there, it's very difficult.
I remember this one incident where, because it's the same had happened with me, where you go to meet a doctor, where infertility is concerned. I want to say it without being too snobbish that, you have been taking national level lectures, you have been doing workshops, and then these people make you sit for...
Yes. So I've sat in a GP's clinic, like a general, no offense again.
Correct.
Nothing against, I did it because I wanted to do
Correct.
it. So I've sat there for an hour just waiting to meet for the doctor and still not met the doctor. So that has also happened.
So you need to be that strong.
Yes. It hurts. There have been times where I'm like, why did I do it? I was so comfortable in the job.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, I feel it's worth it.
And you also had we can skip it, but you also had a very big personal loss while I think this was one of the most difficult times in your life professionally to start a center. And unfortunately, I know uncle passed away, and it was right in the middle of the thick of things that were going on in your center. So tell us something about those days.
So I think it was just 6 months before I was going to start Avisa, and dad was not keeping well, and Yuvraj, I was clueless. Even if dad he was there, as in any
the presence
decision
itself is
and whatever strength, whatever I am as a person is because of him. He was a very strong person, and suddenly I just felt that I have nothing as in I just didn't know how I'm going to go ahead with Avisa. And I think for a month or so, I couldn't go ahead with the work. But then at the end of the day, there were so many loans which were there. And I was not like, I didn't know what to do. But then, do we have a choice? As in, something which is inevitable, we have to accept and move on.
Yeah.
And and I always believe that he's always there. And obviously, it was his dream as well. And I'm sure that he's always watching me over.
Talking about social media.
Yeah, okay.
We've had this conversation a lot of times where, you feel that there is now, for doctors, there is an added pressure to be on social media, irrespective of how good you are, because you can't run away from it. I want you to share your thoughts on it, because I know you're also trying, and you were like you were doing so well. You are the head of a national fertility chain, and now suddenly, because you have a private center, you have to put yourself out there and sell yourself. I think the biggest problem with social media was we as doctors who have practiced for a long time and are confident, but at the same time, medically people knew our worth, but now with social media you have to prove your worth and show it in a so-called glamorous and this way and that way. It takes a time for us to digest, but has it been difficult, and what are your thoughts on it?
Frankly, it's been difficult actually because there's a lot of peer pressure.
Yeah.
What I realized is that it's just not important to be good, because on social media there are not just referral doctors or your contemporaries, there are patients. There are patients who are going to come and visit you. They just are going to believe what you're showing them.
Correct.
That's the most difficult part. So what is happening is that even if you're genuine, if you can't portray it in a genuine, like if you can't convince the patients,
Correct.
they don't believe you. That is something which I feel is a disadvantage of social media.
Right.
So for that, I feel that most of the times what is happening is that if you see, the whole of social media is filled with so many newcomers and so many people trying so many different things. And what happens is that patients also believe what is being shown.
Yeah. I remember, we, of course, we are not naming anyone, but we know of, everyone is trying. We are not trying to discredit anyone, but the problem is being what is true and what is being portrayed. We know of doctors who hardly might be doing 5 surgeries a month, and if you see their social media, they're portraying as if they are doing 50 or 500. And that's when you kind of realize that what are you competing against? I think you're competing against this aura and this presentation rather than the reality. We laugh about these pictures that people put with files, and you know that half of the files
Yes, we've kind of actually
people
discussed
put
that.
like people put 50 files and show, oh no, not like, oh, it's such a heavy Saturday, and then you realize that half of the files are like brand new. They don't even
Yes.
have names inside.
Yes, I know that.
And sometimes people do like 5 files, and this is such a heavy Saturday, and I'm like, okay, 5 files is making a Saturday heavy. I mean, I don't know, we might get trolled for making fun of it, but my point here to a more serious note is that, do you think today it is important for each and every doctor to be on social media and market on social media, or you think no, it's just a phase and will go away?
I think it is important to portray your work. It is very important, but I think we all have to maintain a standard. As in, again, it's my personal opinion.
Correct. Absolutely.
Everybody is free to do. I'm not judging anyone, but what you are doing, because it also spoils the name of the fraternity, is what I have realized. Because there are so many people who come and talk about it, and somewhere we are all a part of the fraternity.
Yeah.
So it's important to maintain your dignity. It's important to definitely at the same time portray your work.
So also that reminds me, is it even more, difficult and more responsibility, again, because you are a female, to present yourself?
Absolutely, because I am their doctor. As in, I want the patient to respect me. At the end of the day, I don't want someone to think of me as, I am not, don't take me wrong again, I'm not a sexologist. I'm an IVF consultant. And I would want to stick to my subject. And people
Correct.
are talking about random stuff. But again, as I said, it's their
Sometimes
call.
it works.
It works, so I can't say much about it. But then I would want to stick to that, and whatever.
Yeah, because again, coming to it, when this group of patients, they come to you, I think you brought a very important point. One, you want them to respect you, and especially, I'm bringing this again and again because that's what I want to discuss with you being here today, is that again, you are a single woman sitting in an office. If you portray something on social media, or you don't put that barrier. Sometimes people might, I know the onus is on the patient, it's not on you, but it doesn't work like that. Has it happened? I'm sure it has happened with you, where a patient or someone has kind of crossed a line and you had to kind of tell them that, look, like, don't cross this line, especially when they're maybe taking treatment or not taking. Because I remember one of my other friends where she said that this guy used to keep on calling in their clinic number that मुझे semen देने आना है, मुझे semen देने आना है. Then there was another guy, I remember a very famous cosmetologist who's a great friend of mine, who said that she had this patient who every time used to come and say, I want to do whole body laser with my private parts, and she's a female dermat, and then they are a group of female employees there, so they say we don't do lasers for men, especially private parts. But kept on insisting and coming, and there was like, it was to a level of harassment. So has there been a time when, you know, a patient has crossed the line and, you know, you had to like be strong and tell them that, you know, mind your business, or this is the boundary, or now not doing the right thing? I'm sure there is.
So many times these men send videos, they want to do video calls, and so for us the commonest thing is they want to donate their sperm because they think that they are going to all become liquid donors. All of us are so, I'm sure like even as a guy you must be getting so many calls for that. So that is the commonest. And as I told you, as a doctor, especially single, being a woman, you have to always maintain that barrier. Yuvraj, that is something that I've always maintained. Still, after that also we do face incidents, but then that has always helped me a lot.
I want to ask you a question. I don't know whether you'll be comfortable answering it or not, but has it also happened in the medical field per se? Do people tend to go take extra liberty because they know that you're a well-educated, good-looking, single, successful woman, and you're single, so it's just they take it for granted that you can just make a pass at them?
I think so, as in they think that it's easier to get through women. I don't know, single or married, is that a criteria?
No, I was just going to come to that. I think it's more married.
Yeah, I think it's more of married women who are, again, no offense, again, single or married, but it doesn't matter anymore. As in, they will make a pass for like whether it's married or single, it really doesn't matter anymore. They think that women will do it even for a lecture or for anything.
Correct.
They think it is very easy. So every time you have to maintain your composure, every time you have to kind of maintain that barrier.
Yeah.
That shield has to always be there.
To show them that this is the boundary that you want to work on.
Yes.
Fine. Now, something that I always wanted to discuss with you about was the fact that, with all this career responsibilities, doing so well, of course, there is something known as a reproductive age that all women face. And, I was genuinely so proud and so happy with the fact that, when you told me that you had decided and you had frozen your eggs. This is in a way, it's a very controversial topic, not for us, but generally. But at the same time, it is so important, where career women are forced to, before that, forced to get married. How do you still have the pressure of getting married? Do you still feel sometimes that, if you were married, it would have been easier?
So my only thing is, what I feel is companionship, which I feel is important. Maybe the definition or the tag of being married is something that doesn't matter to me anymore. Maybe it did at one point of time, but now, frankly, it doesn't matter to me. But companionship, because sometimes the kind of work that we do or the pressures that we have, I sometimes feel that is something that would be great.
Okay, so coming back to egg freezing, how did you come to that? I mean, I know that it's easy for you because you are an IVF specialist. You know the positives, the negatives, uska kya. That confusion, technical confusion is a little less. But still, have you been open, or is this the first time?
Yeah, so this is the first time that I am talking about it. Yes.
But I think it's a great thing, Don't you think it inspires so many people to think about egg freezing, which is like a huge thing today? As we know, marital ages have started increasing. People are not getting married early on. Women want to have the choice of their career. As you were at the peak. I think you were at the peak of your career. If you would have then decided to get married and have kids, it would have, maybe you wouldn't have been able to do so well that you've been able to. Unfortunately, that's the truth. So when did you first think about egg freezing?
Frankly, I think whether it's, as you said, I'm an IVF consultant. I knew the pros and cons about it. But I think every woman who is, and as we were discussing social media, now it's all over the social media. So I think every woman who is thinking about late marriage or whether she wants to become pregnant or not, it is like a bank. It's like how you're saving money in the bank. FD kara di. It's like that. Agar aapko karna, because you don't know how your thought process is going to change 5 years later.
Correct.
So, and I will give, because I'm speaking about it, I don't want to hold back. I want to tell my personal experience, Yuvraj. When I went ahead with the whole process of egg freezing, I was actually working. I was traveling, I was training the doctors as
know.
you know. Till the last minute, till the pickup, I was the procedure of egg retrieval. Till the last minute, I was working, I was traveling, I was going to different states, I was taking injections on my own. So the whole process has become so simple.
Easy. Yeah.
And even the procedure is just 5 minutes.
Correct.
And you are back to work the next day.
Correct.
So why should you not do it?
Right.
As in, if you can do something which can maybe help you later, and even the costs, now if you think about it, initially maybe it was something where people you were thinking, and now there are so many companies which are
Providing
even giving you insurance.
Yeah.
So why not just go ahead with that?
Tell me about you. When was that you thought कि ये करा लेना चाहिए, अभी time हो गया?
So as we all know, the best age group is in the late 20s and the early 30s. And when I crossed, I think around 35, 34, that's when I decided that bus ho gaya, even if my AMH was fine. But then I thought that this is a time that I have to take a call whether I should go ahead with that. And that was like, it was again, that time I was like quick in my decision and I was like, हाँ, अभी तो मुझे बस करा लेना है. Irrespective of my job, irrespective of the pressures that I was having, I just decided to go ahead with this process.
Did you like discuss it with your family or was it solely your decision?
Again, that was something that I did not discuss.
Correct.
Because
which is fair. You are 35 years old.
Yeah, so at that, maybe because I knew too much about it.
Correct.
But then again, it's an individualized personal choice whether you want to discuss it with your family or no. But maybe because I knew about it.
Why I'm asking is, I'm sorry to interrupt. Why I'm asking is because, you know, most of the time क्या होता है कि when I have had this so many females who come to me with parents, and what happens is when they start talking about egg freezing, the parents are तो शादी कर ले.
Yes.
You know, the alternative to egg freezing cannot be marriage.
It can't be. It can't be.
So that's why I'm asking, because most of the time when these girls decide that they want to speak about their reproductive right, the society or the friend circle or the parents who don't know so much about, they're not doctors, who their first reaction is like कि तुमको शादी नहीं करनी but egg freeze करना है. You know, so that's why I wanted to ask you that, you know, what do you think, like what would you tell that parents जो egg freezing का alternative शादी को
See, we have to accept that for the woman, it's the biological clock. It's ticking. And unless you're very certain about a partner,
correct,
why should you go ahead with that? And now you have opportunities. You have options of egg freezing. Correct. So why not take that option and go ahead with it? Correct. And now with greater vitrification techniques and more survival of eggs, why not just take that option? Correct. If you have found a partner, great. If you have not, I think that's an amazing opportunity.
And you know, something very important you said is you were working, you were traveling. You know, there was never a time when and if I'm not wrong, you froze your egg twice.
Yes.
So you did because of the number.
Yes.
You wanted a good number. So
yes.
you did it twice, which is even like different. Now, you said that you didn't have to, because most of the time लोगों को लगता है कि हाँ IVF कराना bed. You know, you'll have to do an IVF. So you'll have to have bed rest. You can't move around. You will have all these hormonal changes in your body, which some might, some might not, but you will not be able to work, your weight will increase, आपको pimples होने लगेंगे, बाल झड़ने लगेंगे. You know, there are a lot of misconceptions. So you being one who's done it twice, can you tell us, did you face any of these issues?
Yuvraj, I think being from the same field and going through the same process twice, I was absolutely fine. There were no, again, as you said, it varies from individual to individual. I was working till the last minute, post the procedure also, like within half an hour, I was absolutely fine. And I started work the next day itself.
Correct.
So bed rest and all, even after IVF, आजकल कौन bed rest बोलता है?
Correct.
So IVF has become so simple, the anesthesia that we give, the injections that we give, the comfort has become, like the convenience and the comfort is another level now.
If you date someone today, you know, when would you tell them that you've frozen your eggs? Do you decide to tell, or do you like think you don't need to tell immediately, or will you? How would you say that? I think that's something I wanted to always ask you.
So now it's on podcast, so now everyone knows about it. But then I think a dating point of view, I would not discuss it immediately. But then yes, if it goes to a serious level, yes.
But do you think as medical professionals, age and dating becomes difficult?
It's the commitment issue which matters. So what I have realized is that if I have to date someone outside of the fraternity,
It's easy.
it's
Difficult?
the conversations are easy, but the time part becomes
Ah.
an issue. So the conversations are, because it's little different from the usual conversations, but then the time is a mismatch. That is something that I've felt. But then conversations are very
Easy.
good. Yeah.
What do you think? Like, you've frozen your eggs. You know, second thing I always wanted to ask you, and I've never asked you this as a friend also, is that did you freeze egg because of personal reasons, or did you freeze egg partly because of societal reasons also? Because, you know, some people might not know whether they really want kids or not, but then there is always this thing in your head that if you find someone and then they come to know that, you know, maybe because of her age now having kids would be difficult, you want to have that security. So when you take this decision, when you took this decision, how much was it because you were like कि नहीं मुझे तो कुछ भी हो जाए बच्चा चाहिए ही चाहिए, या you might have to face this taboo of age and that, you know, maybe you cannot easily become a mother later on in your life, and that's why it's better to have something frozen so that you don't miss out on a good partner?
So I did not do it for a partner, just to be very frank. I love kids. So for me, the main reason was that I love kids, and I would, as much as possible, if I want to have a kid, I would like to, like everyone, I guess, want to have my own genetic child, preferably. So that was my main reason to think about freezing my eggs.
So what do you want to tell? You know, I always have this discussion with a lot of naysayers, and I feel it's an important discussion, but the uska hai na, soul gets lost when it comes with a negative connotation. Is, you know, they always tell us that why do you keep on promoting इतने बच्चे हैं adopt करने को, आप IVF करते रहते हो, if you don't do IVF and encourage them to adopt a child who does not have parents, there will be so many kids who will be blessed with parents and all. So if I tell you today that why did you freeze your eggs, you know, you should adopt a child, what would you tell me?
I think it's a very personal choice, right? It's something that I feel very strongly. There are so many people who are antinatalists, who don't want to have children at all, but it's their choice. Maybe I can't say anything to them. There are so many people who are vegans. It's their choice. It's something that I want to do it.
Correct.
Again, about social egg freezing, it's why we are talking about it is that there are some people who are absolutely unaware about it.
Correct.
The whole point of discussing this is maybe to make people aware, and then it's their choice.
The right to have that choice.
Whether they want to take it or not is their call.
And my question always to them is, why should the onus of adoption just fall on someone who is infertile or someone who is freezing? अरे तुम heterosexual हो, तुम्हारे बच्चे हो रहे तो तुम adopt नहीं कर सकते?
वो तो कोई भी कर सकता है,
exactly.
right?
Why is it only for people who cannot have kids they need to adopt?
And again, the whole process of, again, no offense against the system, but even the process of adoption is so long.
No, there is offense. I mean, if you won't, I would say it's very difficult, and especially for singles.
Yes, for singles it's so difficult. It's like आजकल तो शायद they have kind of said that single men can't
Men तो
adopt.
कुछ कर ही नहीं सकते ना, surrogacy कर सकते हैं, they can't do surrogacy is illegal, they can't adopt. Even for single women, strangely, you and me both know that stupid law where if you're divorced and you're widow, then you can do surrogacy and
Yes.
single parenting, otherwise you can't. So a divorced or a widowed woman is more eligible than a single woman, which is, I just don't understand the logic, but
We have to follow the law, and irrespective of whatever, we have to accept it.
So now, do you plan to use those eggs?
Again, it depends a lot. I said in the earlier conversation that I love kids. So someday, yes.
Even if you have a partner or not, irrespective.
I think so. I think so. As in, I think I'll go ahead.
Correct.
Someday. As on now, maybe Avisa is my baby. So I might want to focus on Avisa, but eventually, yes.
Do you tell patients who are, you know, kind of confused about egg freezing, कि अरे, you know, मैंने ही किया है, क्या तुम डर रहे हो? Because I sometimes, you know, when I have done IVF for my family members, some of my family members, I do, of course, we don't name, but I always say, मैंने मेरी बहन का किया या मैंने मेरे भाई का भी किया है, तुम क्या डर रहे हो? मतलब, you know, it is something. Do you think you can or you don't? You keep that personal.
So, you know, it can work both ways, Yuvraj. Sometimes, some patients where I feel I can speak about it. A couple of them I have spoken, but not all, because it might have negative repercussions also.
Correct.
So they might think that maybe we are kind of forcing them to do it. So it's a fine line. I don't know if you can really understand that, but it's like that. I don't want to force someone into making a decision which they don't.
It's also
want to
whether
make.
you feel comfortable sharing.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's too. Till now, I thought it was too personal, but then it was you, so I had to speak about it. And if it might help a few people, I would definitely be happy about it.
Correct. And coming to the, just because we are around that topic, you've already said about the cost part of it, but financially also, of course you did it yourself. How do you select, a doctor to go for egg freezing? That's something I wanted to talk to you about, because a lot of people will be listening. Where do you do it? How do you select a doctor? That's also a very important thing, right?
What I personally feel is, Yuvraj, whichever doctor it is, whether it's again senior, junior, it really doesn't matter. It is all about the comfort. How comfortable you are with the doctor, and definitely the infrastructure. It really matters, because it's your genetic material. You're going to freeze your embryos, you're going to freeze your gametes. So you have to be sure about where you are going to do it. And again, it's the comfort of the doctor, and obviously how good the doctor is. Again, not going on the social media, who's saying what and how many files are shown. But then yes, that is the criteria that I would go for, like the comfort and the experience of the doctor. Yes.
What is the biggest misconception that you have had to fight, or a taboo that you've had to fight as the single successful female entrepreneur and a medical doctor?
That everything has been served to me on a platter.
Just because you're a female?
And maybe because of the way, I don't know, maybe looks have been an advantage and a disadvantage.
How so? Thoda elaborate.
So a lot of times people, so it's like that. So if I've got something easily, they say that it is because of the looks. You also know about it. And disadvantage as in, I don't know how to put it across, but then it's harsh sometimes, because anything that good, like if I do something well also, it's always because of the way I look, or it's like that. It's not maybe because I'm genuinely good.
They tend to underplay your potential, talent and hard work and intelligence against thinking that she's got an undue advantage being a single beautiful girl.
I haven't achieved so much in life, but whatever I have achieved, usme bhi I have been given the tag that maybe because of her looks, or maybe because of.
You have achieved a lot, but अगर lot हो गया तो फिर क्या होगा?
वो तो अभी हमें होगा तो बहुत अच्छी बात है, but उसके बाद हमें पता चलेगा कि लोग क्या बोलेंगे.
So we are going to play a game now. Okay, I'm going to show you an emoji, and you have to tell me an incident relating that you felt as an emoji. So if I show you a smiling emoji, something, I show you a heart.
Okay.
So an incident in your life that touched you. If it is like an angry, so an incident in your life that made you extremely angry, right? So the first one is this.
Oh.
So something that, you loved that incident, or something that, you kind of became passionate about, or anything like that.
Okay, so this is very recent. So we had this patient who was trying to become pregnant, was not able to conceive. We had to do a PISA for him, like a surgical retrieval. The patient had a couple of incidents in the past, could not get sperms. We managed to get sperms. Even the wife had some issues, and we managed to get some grade 3 embryos, Yuvraj. And we were all expecting, the beta HCG was there, and we were all expecting that the patient is not going to become pregnant. Even the patient was not expecting. And she's like, we'll try to go ahead with an embryo transfer. And then I was just trying to open we got the result. And then we see the beta HCG as like 120, and I was like, okay. And for us, I think as IVF consultants, that is the happiest moment. So I think in the recent times, if you ask me, that was, I was super happy about it, and I was so proud of the team as well as angry. Okay, so what happens is that it doesn't matter whether you are good or bad. It's like बाजू वाले क्लिनिक में 2000 रुपए कम है, बाकी सब doesn't matter to them,
Correct.
and it really hurts.
Yeah,
It
so
really hurts.
it's like more window shopping is happening, doctor
Yes.
shopping is happening.
And then they
It's
will
very-
bargain with you. I'm like, ये सब्जी तरकारी नहीं है boss. As in,
Correct.
it really hurts. It
But
really
you know,
makes me
you've got a
angry.
very important point. This is happening everywhere, you know, and unfortunately, we are also being blamed, and we are blamed for it, and it is our fault as fraternity also, where people have just taken this to another level because they sometimes do suboptimal jobs. They use the most cheap and not good stuff, as in injections or products that are supposed to be used, and they kind of bring down the value of that procedure against someone. Like for example, we know that a certain injection can cost 25,000 also, and the same injection by some local company is also produced in like 10,000. And then if you're trying to compare the results, there is a vast difference. So if that same, what do you want to tell to this lot of audience, because both of us are doctors here, that how do you decide where to take a treatment when it's the difference of amount of rupees that is causing? Because I think वो थोड़ा valid भी है कि चलो, because it's costing so high, let me go to someone who's more reasonable. But then how do you balance that decision?
Yuvraj, the best part is, or maybe the worst part is, IVF results are not predictable. As in, that helps these kind of people. Again, I am not judgmental, but आप कभी भी बोल सकते हो कि नहीं work किया.
Correct.
So there are so many people who are not really focusing. We can't be 100% sure, but at least give it your best shot.
Yeah.
And
Go to
there,
someone who's credible.
Absolutely.
Just don't go to any clinic just because they're giving you less price. Go if you are confident about the doctor.
Absolutely.
If you trust the clinic and the credibility and the name of the clinic. Which
Absolutely. And there is something called as an ART law, which all of us have to follow.
Correct.
So
There's
some
many
place, so we have to go to a place. So
we just had someone, like 55-year-old. I mean, you and me
Yes.
both know today that a woman more than 50 cannot undergo IVF, and now suddenly Musa's mother delivers a child at 55, and everyone is thinking, "Abhi इनके लिए law कहाँ गया?"
Exactly. So you have to be very sure about where you're doing the treatment, because it's about your gametes, as I already told you.
All right. An incident in your life that made you think, that made you kind of ponder कि कहीं पे वो कुछ change हुआ जिसने आपको सोचने के लिए मजबूर किया कि something, maybe I'm doing something wrong, I'm doing something right, I need to change it.
So for me, I told you the life-changing event was, why am I still doing this job? And that, for me, that was a life-changing event when I decided to start Alisa. At least for me, that was a life-changing event.
So that's when you had an issue with your previous
place. Yes,
place.
and
you felt not valued.
Value se zyada, I think it's
Self-respect.
circumstantial, and I think maybe they were right in their place, I was right in my place, and for me it was a life-changing event. Yes.
A funny incident. हर डॉक्टर की लाइफ में कभी भी बहुत फनी चीजें होती है. So, was there a funny incident in your OPD, in your theatre with a patient, or anything?
Yeah, I think we all face these kind of situations where patients come and ask you, मैं दूध पी सकती हूँ क्या? मैं hair color लगा सकती हूँ क्या? As in, I'm sure that we...
You had told me sometimes when patient had called you at night, I sneezed 2 times.
Yes,
Will it
मेरा
affect-
बच्चा गिर जाएगा क्या? So I think that, see, I'm trying to kind of relate to the topic. So those are the most commonest questions that we come across. And as we discussed, now IVF has become so comfortable that you actually can do your routine activities, and as long as you're taking your medicines properly, all these small things don't really matter.
Alright. So now we are going to play something known as a truth serum test.
Okay.
So we have these 10, 12 odd syringes with numbers in it, and I have like 12 questions here. You have to answer 5 questions, but it's a truth serum. So you have to answer it honestly. और तुम्हारा तो मुझे पता है, तो तुम honestly answer नहीं करोगी तो मुझे पता चल जाएगा. So pick one.
Okay. So it's number 9.
9. Okay. So, which is one weird thing that someone has left in your examination or in your consultation room?
So one of my patients had written a love letter, and
वैसे ही छोड़ के चला
वैसे ही
गया.
छोड़ के चला गया.
तुमने रिप्लाई किया या नहीं?
You think I must have replied to that letter?
नो तो बोल सकते हो ना?
No, I didn't do that.
Okay.
8.
8. What is the most unusual or the most funny question a patient has asked you about their reproductive health?
किस पोजीशन में सेक्स करने से मेरे चांसेस सबसे ज़्यादा बढ़ जाएंगे एंड द अदर फनी थिंग इज दैट सो लॉट ऑफ पेशेंट्स डू कम विद इरेक्टाइल डिस्फंक्शन सो अगर हम सीमन टेस्ट ट्यूब से या किसी और वे से उठा के if we put it back will I become pregnant so that is something that I am sure that you are also routinely asked so that is something that I find it very funny.
One more. Third. One. Oh, nice. So, if you had to give a creative name or a nickname to one of the reproductive organs, which organ and what name will you give?
So, there was a recent discussion or some recent reel that happened, and I think someone called the clit as the fun button. I really found it funny.
So nice, na? Acha naam hai, but fun button.
Fun button.
Please. Last, or maybe one more for you because you're my friend. I'll take the liberty of asking you 6 questions. Number 6. Oh, this is a nice question. So, if you had to have a celebrity spokesperson for reproductive health in India, who would it be and why?
Spokesperson, I don't know, but then I really like Ranveer Alabadia. Maybe because I do have a connection because I was Dr. Gautam Alabadia.
He's the son.
Yes, he's the son, and I think he's damn cool. So yeah.
So you want Ranveer Alabadia to become a spokesperson for reproductive health? Good.
Why not?
Yeah. Of course.
He's smart enough, and I think he's been in the same.
Perfect. One more. 5 हो गए, but एक extra तुम्हारे लिए. 7. So if you could give a TED talk on a non-medical topic related to women's health, what would you want to? Or women, chalo, not women's health. So what topic would you want to give a TED talk on if you were invited for
non-health?
Non-health also chalega.
As in, I think there's a big taboo about being single. There's a big, maybe because I've faced that situation throughout. And how to deal with it, how can you still manage to be happy, and you don't always need a man to be happy. I think that is something that all women, there are so many women who come and say that how are you still happy, how do you still manage to smile all the time, and how do you still balance everything like health, work, everything. I think that is something that I would really love to talk about.
Done. Now, as we kind of come to the last segment of the show, we try to wrap up the whole discussion, your life till now, of course, and you have great heights to still climb. Tell me one decision in your life that you are like the most proud of, small or big.
One is to start Avisa. I'm super proud about it, and secondly, not to be pressurized just to be with someone. I think there has always been a constant pressure of being with someone, and that is something that I have decided that unless I find the right person, I'm not going to
single and proud.
Yes, very much.
Tell us the opposite of it. Is there anything that you regret, or is there anything that you feel you would have done differently?
So yes, there are some things about me which I feel that, at least in the initial part, I was also emotional. I was sensitive. If I feel that, though I have learned a lot from that, I wish I could, and I have made wrong choices in the past. So if I could just rectify those, and but then that's life. It can't be without ups and downs. So yes, those are the things that
most of the times as doctors and people from medical community, there is always this 1 or 2 patients जो हमको बहुत कुछ सिखा के जाता है. Sometimes it just changes your perspective. Maybe it is one of the most proud moments of your life or whatever. Has there been a patient in your practice that which has led to a lasting impression on you कि आप वो कभी नहीं भूलोगे उसको आप?
Yes, I think so. We do get a lot of patients with multiple failed IVF cycles and 5 failures, 7 failures. And I don't know, I think I recently posted it on social media. This patient had like multiple failures, and this patient was almost my age, Yuvraj, and then they conceived. And they actually came and touched my feet.
Hmm.
I think what else, as in, I agree I'm not God, but then it actually made me like, I had tears in my eyes at that moment because
Yeah.
I felt that I did something which
Yeah.
made them live their dream. So
Yeah.
so as a doctor, I really felt great. As a human being, I really felt great.
If you had to a 30-year-old girl who's at the same place that you are, doing well in their career, and battling the same battles that you have, is listening to you, and you wanted to give her some piece of advice, what would you tell?
Just because you don't have a backup and just because you feel you don't have too much of money, as long as you're passionate, as long as you're sure of what you're doing, just believe in yourself, and the journey is not going to be simple, but I'm sure that you can achieve it.
Yeah, nice. And last, if you had a Sheetal Savankar 15 years back standing in front of you, asking for advice, what advice would you give to that young, energetic, new doctor on the horizon, Dr. Sheetal Savankar, who's just starting her career? What would you go back and tell that girl today?
Believe in yourself. Sky is the limit, or maybe sky is also not the limit, and just be genuine. I think genuineness is something which really matters a lot.
Thank you. I think, knowing you for these many years, as you said, you don't need to give that advice because I think you're one of the most genuine and honest person. I think you've done so well for yourself. You are an inspiration to all of us as friends also, and in the fraternity also. And we are sure we're going to see great things from you. I know that you speak your mind, and that's why you are here and I say it in the utmost positive and respectful way, that without consequences, thinking about the consequences, you speak your mind because that's your truth. And that's why I think we connect well and we've become friends throughout the years. And I'm so happy to have you here today and do this episode with us. Thank you so much, Dr. Sheetal Savankar.
Thank you, Viraj. Thank you for calling me here. It was really, really great to do this podcast with you. Thank you.
So that brings us the end to another episode of Second Opinion with Dr. Yuvraj, Stories Beyond Stethoscope. As we said today, marital status, parental status, whether you belong to a certain background, whether you have money, you don't have money, nothing comes in your way. As Dr. Sheetal said, if you're passionate about your work, if you're willing to work hard, remember it's not going to be easy, but at the end, it's all going to be worth it. Till we meet in the next episode, stay happy, stay healthy. See you soon. Goodbye.